Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taramina, blog around the OAA, the host of Last Day Brain Cells, host of Taramina's on Orion Television. Also the 2025 ONTV Fantasy Football Champion. I'd like to welcome those watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and those watching on Orion Television. Look at this week here on the pod here. Obviously, a lot of basketball going around, obviously. So we're going to break that one down this week here on this edition of the podcast. So let's start off with a very interesting debate topic here. I was going on Twitter the other day, and the thing I noticed was I looked at State Champs Michigan, of course, on X. They call it now. I know it used to be Twitter. But it's a very interesting conversation. I think he had the head of BCAM. Of course, BCAM is the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. And they talked about a shot clock. And you look at, and they did stats about it. They've done some experiments with the shot clock, and truth be told, I know that they had some success with the shot clock. And, and everybody talks about wanting a shot clock. And they said if they do this proposal, it'll be used for varsity only. There's pros to this, but there's also cons to this. And the reason why, you look at the pros, obviously, it takes away the opportunity to run a Princeton offense, makes games more competitive. And I get all the pro side of it, but there is a side to where you say, wait a minute here. Now you look at basketball rims these days. And is there an avenue where you can fit a shot clock? Is there an avenue where you can put a shot clock on a basket or put a shot clock on a next to the scoreboard? Because there's economic cost to this. Considering, it's going to put more pressure on athletic departments to make an investment on a shot clock. Where are you going to put it? The only place that I know there's two places I know in the OAA that have shot clocks. That is Rochester and North Farmington. North Farmington just recently put in a shot clock, put it on their scoreboards. Next to the scoreboards on the bottom, on the bottom of the scoreboards. Rochester, of course, with them, they have a shot clock at when Rochester University used to play their games, at Rochester High School. So those are the only two that I know that have shot clocks. Already installed on their hoops. So now you look at this, you look at what the MHA wants to do, especially BCAM. They want to install a shot clock for varsity girls and boys basketball. I've talked to some players. I've talked to some players about this, and what was their opinion about this? And of course, I talked to several students at Oakview about this, the idea of having a shot clock. And the majority that I spoke to are not on board with this. And it's a complete change. And I totally get why you don't need a shot clock. but there are pros to having one. But on the no side, because economics is a problem, and then it puts pressure on a timekeeper. Because what if the timekeeper has to do the clock and also do the shot clock? That opens up another can of worms right there. Because unless you hire somebody to just do the shot clock, then you have to make sure that you're on par with the official game clock. Because you look at with the NBA, the NBA and college basketball. I mean, I know college basketball, NBA, there's 24-second shot clock. NCAA, I think the men it's 30 seconds. I think women is 35. So, you got to be on par, and I think that might open up the game to take longer because, you look at, on average, with these games, they're usually done around, like, between an hour, 30 minutes to 2 hours. So, it's kind of it's risky. It's really risky if, and BCAM, and I listened to it, and the majority of them say they're on board with this. So, but for me personally, I've got concerns about this because, yes, you look at almost 3/4 of the country have shot clocks. And Michigan's, I think, one of 13 states that does not have one. But I know that there's been proposals about adding a shot clock. I know that I know that there could be more games added. I think that would be interesting if another proposal was there to add more games. And you look at, if you add a shot clock, there's so many pros and cons to this that it's a risk take. That's what I look at when it comes to describing this topic of shot clocks. And, you look on the pro side, obviously, teams that run a Princeton offense, it forces them to get away from that type of system. Whereas if you're a team that likes to run and gun it, you're going to say, okay, this might make it more entertaining if you go to a run and gun offense. So, I mean, like, it's an interesting dynamic, but I do have some concerns, obviously, when you look at where you're going to put the shot clock. Also, economics, because, you look at school districts across the state. I mean, it's not, you got, it's every school district is different. In the OAA, it's no different as well. When you look at economics with school districts. And then who are you going to install it? And then who are you going to have run it? So there's so many challenges to having a shot clock to where, there's a lot of logistics that have to be involved here before, and I think if I'm the MHA, if I'm BCAM, not only do I would look at it with I know the MHA has been on board with it, but I would talk to the athletic directors about, this idea. Because I think, if they're on board with it, if BCAM's on board with it, if the MHA's on board with it, it's got to be like a big time consensus. Because, because you got to look at with the, and everybody's got to get on board with it. Because if they don't, then we're right back to status quo, which right now we don't have a shot clock. But I know a lot of people around a lot of basketball gurus in the media are asking for a shot clock. So it's interesting to see within maybe the next year or two. Does BCAM send out a proposal to say we should have shot clocks at the majority at every high school game this season? Every high school game. I mean, it's been very successful during Christmas tournaments. I mean, you look at now. I know at the Realm Ball this year they did not have a shot clock. I'm not sure at the North Farmington Holiday Extravaganza if they had the shot clock or not. I don't think they did. But it has shown success in Christmas tournaments. Now, should it just be used for showcase games and tournament games only? It's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of interesting dynamics involved. To say that if you're to use the shot clock, then but as I said earlier, you gotta, if you're an athletic director, I don't know if you're on board with this because you gotta hire somebody to just run the shot clock. And, and of course, who's going to be the one funding these shot clocks? Is it the school district or is it the MHSA? Because if it's the MHSA that's providing the shot clocks for everybody, then, and it puts no cost in the school district, then that's fine. But if the school district has to provide the costs, that's not a good omen. That's not a good sign. And, that's another expense. So, you got to look at the logistics of having a shot clock in basketball, particularly in varsity. I mean, you have your pros, but you also have your cons. And you look at the con side, obviously, if the MHA decides and BCAM decides to do the shot clock, who's going to be funding it? Is the MHA going to fund the installment of a shot clock, or is it on the school district? So that's the question that I have when it comes to shot clocks: is who's going to be funding it and who's going to be installing it, and then also on a timekeeper, if the shot clock is installed, then you're going to have to make sure that everything is like real on cue, on time, and it's just so many, and it adds to the time of games too, and I think that's the one of the reasons why I just don't think that it's wise to do the shot clock. Now, will it happen eventually? Absolutely, it's going to happen eventually, because you look at, of course, you look at where basketball is going. That's the shot clock. I think it's the ultimate end game. But I've got some logistical concerns, funding concerns when it comes to who's installing the shot clocks, who's going to there's going to be districts that say, we don't have the money to install a shot clock. I know a lot of school districts in the state, I don't think have the money to install a shot clock. So there's that case right there of not having a shot clock. But but I think that's where BCAM, the MHA, is going with this. But the concerns I have is economically and, and where you're going to put it. I mean, if they go with the shot clock heading in the next few years. So that is the big, big question going forward is when it comes to shot clocks, when it comes to installing it in high school and in high school, especially varsity, there's just so many questions. I got so many concerns with this idea of adding a shot clock within high school basketball. And I know I'm going to get a lot of people that are going to be like detractors and all that. I get it. But at the end of the day here, I mean, like, if it depends, for me, I got serious concerns when it comes to shot clocks. But for the school districts, if the MHA were to provide the cost for the shot clocks in all their school districts, I'll be cool with that. But if the school district has to provide it, then I got a big problem with that. So, so it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward with the shot clock debate. I know it's still going on. I know there's a lot of proposals going on surrounding it. So it's going to be very interesting to see what direction the MHA goes when it comes to the shot clock. But like I said, I've got a lot of economic concerns with the shot clock, and I also got some concerns that where are they going to put it? And I think that's where my biggest beef is when it comes to adding a shot clock. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, this is it's an interesting interesting proposal that BCAM's going to do, and I'm curious to see how they're going to do this, and and do the athletic directors have a say in this? And I'm very curious to see what happens when it comes to the shot clock. So it'd be very interesting, be very unique. I mean, I know that we've had a lot of rule changes within the basketball world, going to 5 fouls instead of the getting rid of the 1-on-ones, which is pretty interesting because I've talked to a few people here about this. I know a lot of them don't. I mean, like a lot of them just don't like it because it's that changeover. It's that change. You look at, of course, I know the NBA game. They have 5 fouls, but when you get in the college game, they still have the 17 fouls. If you get to 7, it's a 1-on-1. 10 fouls is 2 shots. So it's interesting to see with the way the basketball landscape has been changing, particularly the last 4 or 5 years. Ever since we got out of the pandemic, and just how the landscape of basketball has changed. So it'll be something to keep an eye on as we head into the next few years, is when the shot clock gets installed. Does it get installed? I mean, what are the debate topics going to be going forward? So it's something to really, really keep an eye on going forward. So let's see what happens. Let's look at, of course, the basketball world. Obviously, the teams. You really think about with basketball, On the girls' side right now, you look at, of course, on the girls' side, I think right now, if there was a team that could seriously make a run, have a deep postseason run, you got to give credit Coach Jessica Dubla for what she's done at Groves. And this is her second year with the program. She's turned that program into she's on the verge of turning that program into a powerhouse. And starting out the year 0-2, losing to Farm Tales Mercy and Livonia Stevenson. Both teams really high in the rankings right now. Livonia Stevenson unbeaten. Farm Tales Mercy, one of those powerhouse teams in the Catholic League. Both teams are in the same district. They're with Farmington, which Farmington, honestly, right now they're out to a 5-2 start, but they haven't really played the schedule that neither Farm Tales Mercy nor Livonia Stevenson has. And you look at the NPR, the NPR, and I think this is a very interesting topic too, is, the NPR is a very interesting dynamic because, and this is another thing that I look at. Groves is really high in the NPR right now. And it makes sense right now at Groves, despite having 2 losses, they're pretty high in the NPR. The NPR is a very interesting tool. I mean, they look at your strength of schedule, they look at the wins, they look at the losses. That is the seedings. The MHA determines the seedings. I mean, a couple of years ago, as you know, they used a hat to determine the seeding, determine where you're playing. I think the MHA has really done a good job with seeding districts, and I think, people say, well, do you want to seed regionals? I mean, should the MHA seed regionals? I mean, like I said, it's very logistics. It's very, very logistics. So it's complicated. It'll be interesting. So I think it's going to be it'll be interesting to see. I mean, there's some teams in there that I don't understand. When you have a very good record, but your NPR is very low. So, in the case of one school that's not in the OAA, I had a little bit of a issue with it. And to me, that's Warren Fitzgerald, because Warren Fitzgerald, right now, I think would be the 5th seed in their district. And that's behind Berkeley, Oak Park, and of course there's Warren Fitzgerald. Warren Fitzgerald's got a better record than both Berkeley and A&T. But Berkeley and A&T have both played a more tougher schedule. So, so you're right now not rewarding that aspect of it, because you're saying you haven't played the top of the schedules, and and you're basically saying, okay, you're at the 5th seed, you're gonna play opening night. So, and you're in a 16 district. So, how fair is that when you look at it? I mean, you look at another team that I had an issue with the NPR, but finally, the NPR is finally starting to catch up with them, is Rochester boys basketball. Because you look at Rochester, they sit at 11-0. But there was a time that the NPR didn't like Rochester because of the games they played. The strength of schedule wasn't as strong. And, they penalized Rochester for a time, had them one time as a 3 seed, but now the NPR has finally decided to catch up with Rochester. The computers have finally started to catch up and put them at 6-12, which right now for them is the number 1 seed in their district. And over at Utica Eisner. Stony Creek is the 2 seed at 5-6-9. Adams is the 3 seed at 5-6-6. So, when I look at the NPR, is it a good tool to tell you rankings? Part of me says no. Part of me says yes. Because the NPR tells you how tough your schedule's been, how competitive your schedule's been, and it tells you what type of team you want. Does it tell you what type of team you're? No, it doesn't. So I kind of contradicted myself there. But it really, the NPR sometimes doesn't look at the eye test. And I feel like the NPR at times doesn't see the eye test. And that's why I was very upset when Rochester was ranked so low, despite the fact that the NPR, despite the fact that they had an undefeated record, the NPR just didn't reward Rochester at the time. Then they started saying, okay, let's give Rochester the respect they deserve, and look where they're at right now. So, I think when you look at computers and all that, they just don't look at the eyeball test. And point in case, Rochester's boys basketball team. And I think that's really where I had an issue with the NPR. I still do have an issue with the NPR when it comes to ranking teams. Now, you look at the rankings this week, I think the rankings make a lot more sense now, considering where everybody's at. But there are still some teams that I think that are high in the NPR, but I don't think they're very good. Point in case, Ferndale University's girls basketball team. Ferndale U sits at 4-2 right now. Hadn't played the strongest of schedules, but the NPR says that they have. You look at Ferndale. Ferndale's girls basketball team just played their first game. They got destroyed by Troy, but yet their NPR sits at 494. That don't make any sense. To me, that doesn't make any sense. And you look at Ferndale University, I think they're at 482 right now, and yet they're 4-2. And you look at their district, they have Birmingham Detroit Country Day, who's always played a tough schedule. Center line's been improved this year. So you think about what the NPR is. The NPR just does not look at the eyeball test. That's really what it is. The NPR, I don't know if I compare it to the BCS. Of course, if we look at the BCS, of course, that was the Bowl Championship Series. When college football did their rankings. And, you look at, of course, I know a lot of people don't remember this from college football. But there was a time in 1990, I think it was 99. Or no, it was either 99 or 2000, where Miami went to the national championship game. Actually, it was 2001, my bad. 2001. So who would have been the 2 seed was Nebraska. Nebraska got hammered by Colorado and didn't go to the Big 12 championship game. But yet the BCS computers gave Nebraska that they felt they had enough points, and they didn't even go to the Big 12 championship game. So, you ask me what the NPR is, does the NPR get it right? I think maybe at least 60% of the time they do get it right, but 40% of the time I tend to disagree. So those are the teams that you have to look at with the eyeball test. And I don't think the NPR does a very good job at ranking teams when it comes to the eyeball test. Because you look at a team like a Ferndale, who's played their first game, yet they're at 494. Their girls basketball team. And then you look at Ferndale University. How are they 4-2, and yet they have a high NPR? Just makes no sense. You look at Royal Oak, who sits right now at 327, and yet their NPR is very low. So, I don't know, but I know it's what we got right now, but it just makes no sense. So you wonder why in the rankings, why I put the NPR rankings on there. It tells everybody how the NPR is going. So it's the system we got right now. I mean, is it a perfect system? No, it really isn't. But that's the system we got. So you look at the girls' side of things, Groves has a very good NPR right now. Avondale's got a very good NPR. Bloomfield Hills, I just cannot figure them out because they're having a nice start. And their NPR's high, really high. Stony Creek's NPR is high, and Rochester's NPR is high. I mean, you look at Lake Orion, they're 3-3. Their NPR is 588. Athens, 585. They're 7-2. So it kind of tells you strength of schedule. They take that into consideration. But the NPR just doesn't look at the eye test. And that's where I have an issue with the NPR when it comes to the eyeball test. So it's going to be interesting to see how the NPR does within the next couple weeks, couple months. It'll be very interesting to see. So when you look at the divisions right now, in the gold for girls, I still think, Waterford is coming off Waterford struggling for some reason. They're really struggling. Farmington's 5-2. North Farmington is 6-1. Yet their NPR is very low. But their only loss was to Wall Lake Western. Wall Lake Western's really struggling this year under Coach Steve Emmert. Now you look at the Lakes Valley Conference. You gotta wonder who is the best team in that conference. Is it South Lyon East? Because I know it's not Lakeland, not Milford. Nor is it, Wall Lake Northern's been up and down lately. Wall Lake Central's not very good. Wall Lake Western's not very good. So, you can't figure out the Lakes Valley. And that's the case of Royal Oak's case. But when you look at this division, though, in the gold and the girls, Oak Park, 2-2. Pontiac's 1-5. They're struggling. Then you look at Ferndale U. Then you have the Farmington schools. And then Waterford. So I have to say right now, I would say it's North Farmington, Waterford, Ferndale U, Oak Park, Pontiac. That's the case right now. Really what it is. In the blue, you look at with Athens and Troy. I've been very impressed with Coach J.C. Clum's team. Sitting at 7-2 right now. They're in a good spot. Troy's 5-1. They're also in a good spot. I mean, you look at with Troy, I know the expectations have been a problem for them. But they've somehow, heading into the coming back from Christmas break, they've really, performed well. I mean, they had no issue with Ferndale. Then, you look at the rest of the division. Adams, I think, has improved despite their 3-2 right now. A&T's 4-3. Harper Woods is 3-2. So you really think about this division, and you think, okay, you got Athens, Troy, Adams, A&T, Harper Woods. So you really think about with this division is who is the best team in that division? Right now, I would have to say it's Troy Athens. Based on the NPR, based off some of their wins that they've got. But Troy's got a very good case, too. Harper Woods right now, I think in their district, I think they're fine. Because all they got to worry about is Chandler Park. The rest of that district is 1-14. That's brutal. That's very brutal. The Ferndale right now, to me, I think they're the last place team in that division. So, A&T's been up and down. Adams, watch for them. I like what Coach Justin Howard's been doing with them. They've been very competitive. Very competitive. Then let's go to white. Groves is obviously the best team in this division. They are scoring a bunch on people. But my biggest concern for Coach Jessica Double's team is close games. That's my concern. Is ever since the 0-2 start, Groves has been just blowing people out. That's what they've been doing. They've been scoring at will. We're no mercy. That says a lot. You look at Bloomfield Hills, a very young team, yet they're hanging in there. Gotta give credit to Coach Renato Brown. He's done a really nice job with that team. He's done a really nice job with that program. Especially with what they were expected heading into the year. Then you look at Royal Oak. Are they back? Are they back? Yes, they sit 3-5. But are they back to being Royal Oak? They had a rough one against Berkeley. But they had a big win against Wall Lake Northern. Are they back? I don't know. The NPR's not helping them. Avondale, I feel bad for this team. I just feel bad for them. And I know Coach Roy Christian very well. I know Sasha McLennan very well. I know they're a young team. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this again with Avondale. Patience. 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 I'm not pressing the panic button on Coach Roy Christian's team yet. I'm not pressing that panic button. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. And then Seaholm's issue is they can't score. They can't score. That's been their problem. They can't score. That's something to really look at. In the red, Clarkson came back from 14 down to beat West Bloomfield. So that kind of tells you about Clarkson. They have experience. That matters. That matters when you look at players like Eliana Roback, Brooklyn Colbert, Ava Wasilic. You got Bella Flavin. They got experience. West Bloomfield, curious to see how that team's been gelling, because I know they've been struggling lately. Big concern right there. But I think no one coached Jerry McAllister. They'll get it turned around. Stony Creek, they sit 6-1. I know they had a blowout win against Lake Orion. But a part of me, when I look at the Stony Creek team, was I impressed with them? You know, they had a nice game. Don't get me wrong. But a part of me still, it's like the novelization by Matthew Stover, Revenge of the Sith. Of course, they have a movie. Of course, a lot of people look at the movie Star Wars. I'm just looking at the novelization. Because the novelization of Revenge of the Sith by Matthew Stover, that's Stony Creek girls basketball right there. I mean, right now they're at a high. My biggest concern is when they get, had they had that downward, that low yet? Have they had that? I mean, you look at Stony Creek right now, the Avash sisters, they've been playing well. But that's still a big concern with Stony Creek. It has been. Then you look at Rochester. Then you have Jalen Freeman, you have Samantha Fulkerson. Fulkerson's been playing well. Freeman's been kind of that, she's been like up and down. And then the bench. For Stony Creek, to me, yes, they got the number 1 seed in their district right now, but I just think Utica Eisenhower is going to overtake that. I got concerns with Stony Creek. Big concerns. Rochester coming off a 3-point win against Oxford. Defensively, they play a 2-3. Sal Marlowe's a very good player. They got others too. Rochester's not a bad team. Still trying to figure that Romeo loss out. Because that loss is absolutely killing Rochester right now. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with them. Then you look at Lake Orion. Oxford. Let's go Oxford. Oxford here, when I look at them, Caitlin Brockway is basically Jake Champagne. He's basically him. She's basically him. So, you think about that situation. Brockway has to carry the load. Because if she doesn't, Oxford struggles. And then there's Lake Orion. Lake Orion got shellacked by Stony Creek. This team has to figure it out quickly. They've got to score. They got to take care of the ball. They got to basically maybe go more of a conservative route offensively. And they can't turn it over. That's been their problem. And it's let the fast break points. And, and they need their stars to show. Yes, Kara Veter is only a junior. And Kelsey King's only a freshman. But they're going to have to perform. Both of them got to perform. And they're going to have to get contribution from other girls. That's the key for Coach Bob Bridges, is you got to get contributions elsewhere. And you gotta have your two top players be your two top players in Veter and King. Because if they're not, then you're going to see what happened in that game against Stony Creek happen more often. So they have to be your two top players if you're going to be successful. So we'll see what happens. No changes when it comes to red. So we'll see what happens. Then let's look at the boys' side. I mean, you look at, of course, on the boys, the gold division starting to get a little bit clear, a little bit. I would say right now, Oak Park right now, it's Oak Park, Harper Woods, A&T. Kettering, when I watch them, they really struggle. I mean, I watched their game against Wyandotte, and they were not good. Not good at all. Started out down 15-0. Now, albeit they only lost by 5, 56-51. But they played Oak Park. It was 37-27. So, Kettering, I've got some concerns with them. I've got some big concerns with them. Oak Park is a weird team. Really weird team. And you look at, the reason why I say it, look at the defensive stats. 60 in their loss against Detroit Martin Luther King. Then they allowed, I think, 54 against Richland Gull Lake. Both were losses. In their wins, they allowed 30 points or lower in all their wins this season. So that says a lot right there. Oak Park, they defend, they win. They don't, they lose. That's been Coach Duran Shepard's recipe all season long. They have to defend. Harper Woods, we know what they got. Young team, got 3 Canadian transfers. So they're a very interesting team. They had to survive Skyline. I mean, so there are some warning signs with Harper Woods. A&T played a tough non-conference. I know they had their game with Harper Woods postponed because of a power outage because we had a wind event. So figure out when they get that game remade. So rescheduled. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there with A&T. Berkeley's been struggling. I know they're a young team. I know they're very young. Ferndale University is really young as well. So, in the goal I kind of think with them, it's going to come down to is, I still think Harper Woods right now, I have to give them the edge. Then it's Oak Park, A&T, Kettering, Berkeley, Ferndale U. It's really what it is right now. Then let's look at the blue. When I look at the blue, you kind of look at this division and you say to yourself, the blue is going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Boomby Hills really stands out. They were very impressive against Lake Orion. Deron Mason scored his 1,000th career point in a 62-45 win against Lake Orion. And then they had to survive Pontiac, 43-42. So Boomby Hills right now, to me, is the best team in this division right now. It's not even close. Pontiac's had a rough week following the Stony Creek. They were They were destroyed by Stony. And then lost that heartbreaker to Bloomfield Hills. So Pontiac right now is kind of reeling a little bit. Royal Oak is a odd team to figure out because they just lost by 21 to Seaholm. Not a good sign for Coach Aaron Smith. Not a good sign. Really isn't. Seaholm's a weird team. I mean, they had things rough early on, but then put up 61 against Royal Oak. So Seaholm, I can't figure them out right now. I really can't figure Coach Preston Adams' team out. I just can't figure them out. Then Troy Athens, I thought was the game of the night in the blue. That game, you kind of figured out, okay. Athens winning 58-55 in overtime. It was a back and forth game. Athens right now sits at 6-6. Troy right now is 5-6 because they're coming off a loss to Groves. They were at LCA on Saturday, where that was a 60-55 game. So Troy's been struggling a little bit. I think he turned things around a little. I think he turned things around under Coach Gary Fralick. I think he turned it around. Athens has been a weird team to figure out. Still trying to figure that loss to Mass Heights Lanphier out, which has been just mind-boggling. I'm still trying to figure out how they lost that one. So that's kind of where I'm at with the blue. I still think Bloomfield Hills is the team to beat. Do I move any of the Troy schools up over Pontiac? I just can't right now. I think Pontiac will get it turned around quick. So I think right now, Bloomfield Hills right now is the team to beat in the blue right now. Look at the red now before I talk white. Red, when I look at this division, I still think it's going to be Avondale and Clarkson. It's going to come down to those two teams. I don't know if they play each other this week, but when I look at Avondale and I look at Clarkston, Avondale right now, they're the cream of the crop of the division right now. Clarkson's right there with them. It's just different styles. Avondale, of course, likes to go run and gun. Clarkson is more of that, systematically approach. So that's how I look at Clarkson. They're systematically, they want to beat you systematically. Whereas Avondale will go up and down on you. And I know Coach Aaron Fox did a really nice job of that program. He's done a really nice job. So those are right now, say, the two top teams in the red right now. Farmington's struggling a little bit, sitting at 4-7. I think, they're going to be fine. They're going through the tough non-conference schedule, and they're playing in the red. Those are not easy things. North Farmington, when I look at with them, it's kind of hard figuring them out because I know there's been some frustration over there at North Farmington. So that's something to really watch for going forward there. Ferndale, I know they're playing a tough schedule. Their non-conference is absolutely brutal. I know Coach Juan Rickman's style is, get them ready for the postseason. Your district's looking more and more manageable right now. So Ferndale right now has the top seed in their district. They got to deal with Detroit Old Redford, which could be a very daunting task for them. So that's something to really watch for with them. West Bloomfield, when they play defense, good things happen. When they don't, look at what happened against Roseville when they lost by 18. But Coach Jordan, defense. Play defense. If this team don't play defense, they're not very good. And then Groves right now is just going through it all. They're just going through the motions. They're just going through it. So it's interesting there with them. So when I look at the red, Avondale, Clarkston, Ferndale, Farmington, North Farmington, West Bloomfield, Groves. That's my take right now in that division. And then let's look at the White. Had their first set of games. Rochester sits 11-0. I talked about them earlier about the NPR. Had a nice win against Stony Creek, 54-50. They were in firm control of that game. They were in firm control. They controlled tempo. They had timely shots. They looked like they were one step ahead of Stony Creek. They were one step ahead of them. So you look at the difference in that game. With Stony Creek's balance, of Rochester's balance, Nate Tanny had a nice game. Anthony Churl had a nice game. Ben Bissett got rebounds, despite being limited. Logan Pleasant was solid. I mean, Rochester's got and Luke Lauer was solid too. Rochester's got a very good team. Stony Creek, you look at them, they rely a lot on Quentin your guy a lot. But they do got players as well. Anthony Ehringhaus. I know their sophomore stud got into foul trouble. And that was a big difference there in that game. So Rochester right now sits in a really nice spot. Stony Creek, I think, is going to be fine. I think they're going to be okay. I mean, they got their big guy back. They got their big guy back after being injured. He'll be fine. I think Stony Creek will be fine. Adams and Mott. This was a heck of a game. Adams ended up winning this one 48-47 in a hard-fought game. I mean, Adams' balance showed. Now, people say Waterford Mott, they didn't have Damari Stevens, and they didn't have him. He didn't play in that game for Mott. And that ended up being a big deal. You know what I mean? That was a huge deal because that put a lot of pressure on Torrey Robinson, particularly at the 4 spot. If for Mott, Stevens has to be on the floor, because if Stevens is not on the floor, that might spell trouble. I mean, for Mott, because Stevens gives him a different dynamic where teams have to pay attention to. For Adams, obviously Cannon Flynn is the star. He is the star, but they got others too. I mean, they got a very good wing who's very good. I think it's Josiah. I got to remember the guy's name, but he's a very good player. William Reed's been solid for them. I know they got Ferris there. They got Brady Lynch's a solid player. Nolan Ferris has been very good for them. So Adams, I like what Coach Isaiah Novak's doing. Hardworking team. So they're in a good spot right now, where they're at. And then there's Lake Orion and Oxford. Lake Orion, of course, won over Oxford 47-37. Behind the play of their guards, Jackson Shosky and Nate Giacalone, combining for 31 points at the 47. You look at Lake Orion defensively. When this team's very good defensively, team's tough to beat. And you look at the play of Will Farmer, Max Nearing, Kaline Scott. The bench has been solid. For Coach Jose Andrades. Lake Orion, when I look at this Dragon team, right now, I feel like they can beat you in different styles. I feel like they can beat you in different styles, even though there are weaknesses with this team. But I feel like they can play that style game with anybody. So with Lake Orion, they're going to be fine. The record sits at 5-4. They played a tough schedule. So I think they're going to be fine. Oxford, when Brendan Elling gets shut down, Oxford usually struggles. And, I know Brody Casper's been playing good basketball lately for Coach Joe Fedoracek, but Oxford right now, they're having an issue scoring the basketball right now, and I think that's a big problem. Yes, they lost a lot of talent a year ago. They lost a lot of scoring. But, obviously Elling is your go-to guy. Casper's been doing what he can. So, for Oxford, it comes down to, can they score? And it's shown their games. You know what I mean? Where Oxford has had issues scoring, they don't win if they don't score. So that's going to be their biggest issue all year long in the white is can they score? That's the big key for them going forward. See what happens. We're going to sign off here. Make sure you follow the blog at Segway for this video at blogspot.com. We're keeping an eye on the football coaching situation at Avenel and Berkeley. Also, follow the website at OA at around the OA at Weebly.com. All right, I'm going to sign off here. Take care. God bless. And I will see you on next video. Take care and God bless. God bless.